A macro virus is a computer virus written in the same macro language used to create software programs such as Microsoft Excel or Word. It centers on software applications and does not depend on the operating system. So a macro virus can infect a PC or Mac. Macro can run automatically in certain circumstances. In most cases, macros must be enabled by the user for them to run. However, some macro viruses are designed to run automatically when the infected document or template is opened without the user's knowledge or consent. Without getting too technical, a macro language is a special-purpose command language that lets you easily automate certain sequences in specific applications. Normally, this helps software like Microsoft Word or Excel run more smoothly, since just a few keystrokes will trigger a whole series of actions. Macro viruses specifically target this macro language and insert themselves into the automated processes. Software infected with a macro virus may be compelled to create new files, corrupt data, move text, send files, format hard drives, insert pictures, and deliver other, possibly even more destructive kinds of viruses or other types of malware. How does a macro virus work? Macro viruses work by embedding malicious code into data files, such as documents and spreadsheets. This code is activated as soon as these files are opened or when macros are enabled, proceeding to infect other files on your device. Microsoft Word documents are common carriers of macro viruses. Because of macro viruses, programs like Microsoft Word and Excel now keep macros disabled by default. If you download a malicious attachment, it will prompt you to enable macros. Doing so triggers the payload of the virus. Once a macro virus has infected one document, it typically infects all other similar documents on your computer. So you may need to delete all other files of the same type, because they are probably already infected with the macro virus. This can cause inconvenience at best and lost time or revenue at worst. If you share a macro virus infected document with someone else, it will infect their documents too. Macro viruses may not be as dangerous as ransomware attacks, in which data are held hostage, but they can still do damage. What's worse, a macro virus can be set to run automatically and silently, so victims may be unaware that their device is even infected. Cybercriminals use social engineering tactics to spread macro viruses. Often they'll spread an infected attachment through a trusted contact because people are more likely to open a file from someone they know rather than a stranger. Hackers exploit people's trust in their friends and their curiosity because once a file is received, many people won't have a second thought about enabling macros to see what a friend has sent them. Once infected, a macro virus can spread from your device to your list of contacts, repeating the cycle. Here are some macro virus symptoms. The most obvious signal of a macro virus is a pop-up asking you to enable macros. So think about whether you've done that recently to see if you might be infected. Once you have a macro virus, its symptoms can mirror other computer virus symptoms. These include unusual or unexpected behavior from the infected application, such as crashing or freezing. Unusual or unexpected files or folders appear on the system. Changes to system settings or configurations without the user's knowledge or consent. System performance degradation, such as slower response times or reduced overall speed. Unauthorized access to the system or network by external parties. Unusual or unexpected messages or alerts appear on the screen. Preventing macro viruses. If you suspect your system may be infected with a macro virus, it is important to immediately run a full system scan using a reputable anti-malware program and contact your IT administrator. If the infection is confirmed, it is important to follow the instructions provided by the antivirus program to remove the virus and restore your system to a healthy state. Software such as Microsoft Office and other word processing applications now disable macros as a default setting. You have to enable them yourself if you need to. This means macro viruses are avoidable by keeping macros disabled because in order to activate the virus, macros must be enabled. If you receive an attachment or file that requires you to run macros, don't immediately do so. Ask whoever sent the file if macros are really necessary before you do anything. Always be cautious about emails you weren't expecting, especially if they have attachments. They might be infected with all kinds of viruses and malware. More recent examples of threat actors and cybercrime gangs using macro infections, such as Locky ransomware. This type of ransomware uses macro malware to encrypt the victim's files and demand a ransom payment to unlock them. Dridex. This banking Trojan uses macro malware to steal sensitive financial information from the victim's system. Emotet. This type of malware uses macro-laden email attachments to infect the victim's system and steal sensitive information. Ursnif. This is a banking Trojan that uses macro malware to steal login credentials and other sensitive information from the victim's system. Adwind. This type of malware uses macro-laden documents to infect the victim's system and steal sensitive information. These are just a few examples of macro malware. Many other types of macro malware exist, and new variants are constantly being developed by attackers.